So, ladies and gentlemen, NFL Week 2 is practically in the books as we await for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons game this coming Monday night. But I feel like a lot of narratives have been addressed, some narratives have died, and we're starting to get some pretty good storylines, some overreactions. So, in today's episode, we're going to be going through each and every single game, and I'm going to be giving you my instant reactions to NFL Week 2. This is powered by BetUS, folks. BetUS is hands down the number one sports book on the face of the planet when it comes into everything and anything sports bet. So they're matching 150% of your first three deposits all the way up to $2,000. Simply just go to their website and utilize code YouTube150 to get in on that promo. If you've been following me for a while, you would have known that you had to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 7.5. Your boy cashed out last night. So please take advantage of this incredible promo that BetUS has going on and get in the game. By the way, folks, like and follow for more daily NFL content. My goal is 50,000 subscribers by the end of this damn season. Let's go on ahead and knock it out. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I told you, fools. I told you. Shame on anybody that thought that the Miami Dolphins had a snowball's chance in hell at beating their daddy in Josh Allen Stadium. And it's funny because Josh Allen didn't even really have much of a contributing factor during this game. 13 for 19, 139 yards and a touchdown. The real winner of that game, folks, was James Cook and this overall run game. I was telling everybody that I anticipated the Buffalo Bills to utilize a Dallas Cowboys-esque attack plan like we did in 2023 against this Dolphins team, and it was nothing but pure, utter domination. Now, what makes it even more intriguing now is that Buffalo Bills defense made a name for themselves. 2 interceptions for Jamarcus Ingram. And fun fact, everyone that would always shit on me for saying, watch out, Damar Hamlin might be pretty good, dude was the leading tackler at the end of the day. I think this is super impressive from the Buffalo Bills defensive front, not only losing all of these key departures in the offseason, but still playing with some significant injuries. We lost out on Terrell Bernard within the first 3 plays of the game. Taron Johnson wasn't even out there to begin with. Our perimeter corners need some damn attention. They need some respect. And so they locked down Tyreek Hill to about 30-something yards and Jalen Waddle to about 40. Buffalo Bills took care of business against Miami. Hope Tua is okay. Just saw that they signed Tyler Huntley. Probably a pretty good option for them. So the Buffalo Bills head into the season 2-0. It's a beautiful thing. Now, next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. It's pretty crazy that the San Francisco 49ers haven't won in Minnesota since 1992. I should have thought of that when I gave my picks for NFL Week 2 by itself. But shout out Sam Darnold. Again, I saw something where he is currently top 5 in QBR throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. We thought that once J.J. McCarthy was going down, that the Vikings were just destined to be in the basement. But I'm staring at this Vikings team sitting at 2-0, and if Sam Darnold can still do his thing, and if Brian Flores' defense keeps absolutely dominating, in which that he did a fantastic job at being able to get the most out of the San Francisco 49ers offense. As you can see, Purdy, same thing with Jordan Mason and Deebo Samuel, all ended up getting what was theirs. But when they needed it most, this Minnesota Vikings defense ended up stepping up. Shout out to the Vikings for winning this game. Sounds like Justin Jefferson is going to be completely fine with a slight quad injury. Won't miss any time, but Vikings go 2-0. No one was expecting this. So now next up, you have the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. And folks, one thing that I've seen from this game is that the New England Patriots are still very annoying. Okay, we knew them as that team that, yes, their personnel is absolute doo-doo, but for some reason, they're always going to stick in there. They lost out on Matthew Judon, but defense was still getting theirs. Geno Smith, shout out, a hell of a game, 33 for 44, 327 yards. DK Metcalf with that absolute hoss to the end zone at about the second quarter. 10 receptions, 129 yards, and a touchdown. The Seattle Seahawks shocked the world, and they are tied first place with the Arizona Cardinals. That's right, I told you, the Arizona Cardinals. Patriots are interesting. I think that they're going to be in these games all season. Don't count out the New England Patriots. I don't see them losing by more than 10 points all season. I don't see them doing very well. I still see them literally being in the basement for the 2024 season. But shout out the Pats, especially since Antonio Gibson was the one that ended up getting the most production out of the backfield for this team. I just wish that their offensive line would give Brissett a bit more time to make some plays. So next up, we have the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants. And I mean, this was the battle of the mid, folks. We totally saw that coming. I'm glad that Daniel Jones finally ended up getting into the end zone. Shout out Malik Neighbors for finally getting some solid production for his second game of the season, or his career rather. 1 touchdown, 127 yards. Singletary. Everyone knows that I have a soft spot in my heart for Devin Singletary. I'm glad I saw that production. But you just can't stop. You just can't stop the Washington Commanders kick game, man. Shout out to our boy right now, Austin Siebert. 7 for 7. 100%, long 45-yarder, and 21 points. All of the points that the Washington Commanders threw up against the New York Giants was on our boy. And Jaden Daniels did pretty good. I'm kind of nervous that he's going to kill himself out there for literally just, facing linebackers 1v1 when he looks like he weighs 155 pounds. But the Washington Commanders go 1-1 against perhaps the worst team in the NFL, the New York Giants. Now, next up, we have the LA Chargers and the Carolina Panthers. Folks, I don't think anybody was shocked that the Carolina Panthers were starting the season off 0-2. And man, I'm sorry, I said this last week, but Bryce Young is an absolute lost cause. This guy has terrible decision-making power. So he's running around there like a chicken with his head cut off. 18 for 26, 84 yards, and 1 interception by itself. This Panthers team is god-awful. Offensively, defensively. Listen, I think Dave Canales has his work cut out for him, and I don't think anything's going to save this organization until David Tepper is fired. Shout out to the Chargers, though. Jim Harbaugh once again proving that you can win with a 1980s-style NFL sort of offense. Justin Herbert only attempted 20 passes for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. J.K. Dobbins, absolute dog. 17 carries, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. Harbaugh was on a mission. He wanted to build up the trenches. He wanted to establish a run game. And what the LA Chargers are doing might not necessarily be sexy, but it's working, and they're 2-0. So next up, the New Orleans Saints and the Dallas Cowboys. Folks, it's time to put some respect on the New Orleans Saints name, all right? I saw this team maybe finishing in 3rd place, all right? Maybe battling for like slightly above 500, slightly below 500. This team's for real. I gotta give it to him, man. I really, really do. Derek Carr, only 16 pass attempts, still puts up 243 yards and 2 touchdowns, all right? Alvin Kamara, running back on their end. Everyone thought that he was washed, that they were going to start getting some sort of regression from the guy. But 3 touchdowns for the dude. Shout out to the fantasy managers that had this man on the team. And Rashid Shaheed, if anyone were to tell you, if anybody were to think that Shaheed would be wide receiver 1 for the New Orleans Saints and not a gentleman by the name of Chris Olave, this team, folks, I'm just going to tell you, literally has a sleeper build. All right, this is a solid offense and a solid defense to even put it out there from that perspective. I mean, honestly, we had a Tyrann Mathieu with an interception. All over the place. Alontae Taylor, 8 tackles, 1 assist, half a sack here, 1.5 sacks for Carl Granderson. This Saints team, all right, I feel bad for picking the Atlanta Falcons to win the NFC South this year. As long as the Saints can stay reasonably healthy, this team's going to be dangerous. Last 3 games, they've scored over 40 points. Dating back to the 2023 season. Absolutely incredible. And so the Dallas Cowboys obviously struggling once again. You have Dak Prescott, 27 for 39, 293 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Absolute garbage time from the Dallas Cowboys here. The run attack for Dallas is going to be their Achilles heel. Their best running back only put up 30 yards the entire time. Without CeeDee Lamb, what the hell is this team going to look like? I'm concerned about the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see if they can bounce back against another struggling team in the Baltimore Ravens next week. All right, folks, we have the Indianapolis Colts and the Green Bay Packers. Packers ended up edging one out 16-10. And I have to tell you, I'm having a hard time deciding if Anthony Richardson is just so bad and the Indianapolis Colts are just such a terrible team, or if Malik Willis was actually a credible backup and Green Bay ended up making the move. I didn't think that the Packers were going to win a single game until Jordan Love got back from his injury, but Malik Willis ended up doing it and getting it done for his team. I mean, granted, not the biggest contribution, only 14 pass attempts, 122 yards, and a touchdown, but Josh Jacobs, anyone that thought this dude was washed, he silenced the haters by racking up 32 carries for 151 yards. Romeo Doubs had himself a day as well. It was just a damn run game for this overall team, folks. It was a solid run attack down the Indianapolis Colts defense. throats, if you will. And I was sitting there very, very impressed. So now this Green Bay Packers team can win multiple ways, even if Malik Willis is starting, all right? Start putting some respect on Matt LaFleur's name. As far as the Indianapolis Colts, man, damn. I mean, listen, I'm really trying to be patient with Anthony Richardson, but at this point, if you're a Colts fan and if you are not at least a little bit worried about this guy's development, asking yourself if he will ever develop, then I think at this point you're just delusional. Okay, we have the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Cleveland Browns scored 18 points by itself. Yes, was it a great performance by Deshaun Watson? Not at all, right? 22 for 34, 186 yards. Jerome Ford, only 64 yards on the ground. Jerry Jeudy was their leading receiver. If it wasn't for the Jacksonville Jaguars, man. I mean, look at Trevor Lawrence, 14 for 30, 220 yards. ETN really didn't get the ball going. Brian Thomas Jr. is one of the only bells and whistles on that team. They take shots downfield. They love it, but it's just not enough. This Cleveland Browns defense, I knew that they were going to give Trevor Lawrence some fits. I don't trust Trevor Lawrence at all. I think he's a bust. I will continue to say that he is a bust until proven otherwise. Very interested to see what happens with the remainder of the AFC North. You have the Steelers in first place, the Browns in second, and the Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens in the basement at 0-2. Wild division. Now, next up, the New York Jets and the Tennessee Titans, all right? I'm glad that the New York Jets ended up getting the monkey off of their back. They saw Aaron Rodgers lead his team to the first victory of the 2024 season, but we have to talk about this Tennessee Titans team. Will Levis is an absolute liability. When you're seeing Brian Callahan hit the podium and say, yeah, that was dumb, verbatim, there's issues over in Tennessee. Will Levis, man, whether or not that we want to place blame on the offensive line, his decision-making, that fumble that he had right when he was in the red zone that probably would have shifted the momentum of the game was absolutely detrimental. And he did it 2 weeks in a row. It's got to be something he has to be better with. Tony Pollard, 62 yards on the ground, and Calvin Ridley, 4 receptions for 77 yards and 1 touchdown. As far as the Jets, solid win, but this Jets team looks like it has a lot of rust that they need to knock off. They almost looked unrecognizable defensively for the past 2 weeks. Let's see if they clean it up, as their schedule does tend to get a bit more difficult as the season progresses, but glad to see the Jets are in the win column, and the Tennessee Titans obviously have a lot to figure out. About those Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Detroit Lions, all right? I said this, I predicted it. I said, folks, hammer that +7.5 because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are about to shock the world. I just like this team. It's scrappy. Baker Mayfield's out there feeling dangerous. Only attempted 19 passes for 185 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. But overall, it was efficient enough to get the dub. And he led the team in overall carries and rushing yards for another touchdown. Chris Godwin reminding everybody that, yes, he is still in the NFL, and yes, he is still a damn good wide receiver too. I mean, this overall game by itself, folks, this was very gritty, and so very boring, rather, certainly a defensive matchup, but you have to absolutely shout out this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. They were getting pressure, ball hawks out there. Everybody can be absolutely thrilled with it. Jared Goff had his game, 34 for 55, 307 yards and 2 picks on top of the day. Pretty tough. Say, for example, you look at some of these receiving numbers as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, they did their damn job. They were spreading the ball around, but the issue was that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers red zone defense is one of the best in the league again, and they couldn't get home. Really interested to see how the Lions clean this up. I'm confident that they will, but watch out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're for real. So now, next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders beating the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think anybody anticipated the Ravens to go 0-2 at the beginning of the 2024 season, but I have been telling you guys for the longest time that this Baltimore Ravens offensive line is an absolute liability. Lamar Jackson obviously ended up throwing a pick, went 21 for 34 and 247 yards. Derrick Henry, 18 carries for 84 yards. Zay Flowers being the dude that we all know that he can be. But the real winner here was the Raiders defense making plays when it counted. Going over to the Raiders, you see Max Crosby, and I was going to tell you one thing and one thing only. After getting locked up by a rookie during week 1 against the Chargers, there was no way this man was not about to go out there and be a menace to society. He collected 2 sacks against that offensive line. for the Baltimore Ravens. Gardner Minshew ended up doing enough, I can tell you that, and Devontae Adams had himself a game showing that you better be putting me in your top 3 wide receivers in the league conversation because I am still here. Very impressive for the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not so much concerned about the Ravens, although they do have a pretty difficult schedule for these upcoming games. They have the Dallas Cowboys next week and then the Buffalo Bills. Can they fix it before things hit the fan? Shout out those damn Arizona Cardinals, bro. Shout out those Arizona Cardinals. Man, when the Buffalo Bills beat them week 1, all I got were people in my comment section saying, oh, dude, it was the Cardinals, bro. All right? Let's not get too excited. This team's going to be trash. This team is in the first place at the NFC West right now, folks. They control their own destiny, and this offense stops sleeping on them. Kyler Murray, once again, being cocky on Twitter, he deserves it. 17 for 21, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dude added a bunch to the ground as well. I'm pretty sure he rushed for like 56 yards. James Conner, hell of a game, 122 yards. And how about Marvin Harrison Jr.? My dudes, 4 reception, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That was the dude that you drafted 3rd overall in the NFL draft. Dude was an absolute stud out there. But it also goes to show you that the LA Rams defense, secondary specifically, is an absolute liability. This entire team, absolute liability on the defensive side of the ball. Matthew Stafford can't do it all. All right, now that Puka Nacua is on the IR, and I mean, when you have Demarcus Robinson only catching 2 for 50 yards, Blake Corum 8 carries for 28, this Arizona Cardinals team absolutely went off. With Kyron Williams, need him to step up for the LA Rams. Cooper Kupp was almost gone. Same thing with Tutu Atwell. It's rough for the LA Rams starting off 0-2. I think that they're going to clean things up, but man, Sean McVay needs to start making some moves on the defense, or I really don't know what to expect from this NFC West division. Absolutely insane. Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs, man. I would say I was impressed with Joe Burrow's performance. 23 for 36, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes absolutely throwing out 2 picks. Had another pick sent back due to a penalty. He has like 18 of them since 2017, leads the league by a wide margin. Now, I thought that the Bengals did everything they needed to win this game. The only issue is that I think that the refs, were, sort of tickling the Kansas City Chiefs' balls during this one, and the Chiefs end up coming out on top for a game-winning field goal at the end of the day. But this looks a hell of a lot better from Cincinnati. I'm not going to be sounding the alarm bells. How many times have the Bengals gone 0-2? All right, for the past couple of years in the Joe Burrow era. Hopefully, T. Higgins ends up coming back at some point, so I'm sure the Bengals miss him, but when you have Gesicki with 7 receptions and 91 yards, that is certainly something you want to look for. Would have loved for a better game from Jamar Chase, especially since he's still looking for that contract, but overall, it's the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. Is anyone really surprised that they won a close game determined by a call in the field? I certainly am not. So next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Denver Broncos. I think it's safe to say that we are going to be seeing the most boring football you could possibly ever see in your life when you see the Pittsburgh Steelers out there. They are now leading the AFC North. Who in the hell would have thought that by only putting up 13 points? Justin Fields finally ended up collecting a touchdown at 117 yards, 13 for 20. Then Najee Harris ended up doing what he had to do. But it was all the defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers that ended up winning them this game. Bo Nix threw 2 picks for 246 yards. He rushed for 4 carries and 25. And Josh Reynolds ended up hauling in 4 receptions on 93 yards in total. But I mean, really just looking at Bo Nix, man, he's been struggling. Really need a bit more work from Javonte Williams and the run game over in Denver if they want this young man to develop. You can't put this on Bo Nix to win games like this. It just doesn't work that way. And you definitely want some more of these players, specifically in the receiving game, to step up. How they cut Tim Patrick, I really don't know. Would it have helped? I really don't know at this point. But again, the Pittsburgh Steelers win a very gritty and boring game. Last but not least, we have the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. The Texans win 19-13, and let me tell you what, if Caleb Williams does not get an offensive line, I don't know what Chicago Bears fans are expecting from this young man year one. He got pressured something like 88.2% of every single dropback that he had. Now, I'm assuming this had to do with D'Amico Ryan wanting to put together a nice little blitz package and really test this young man's decision-making power. And let's just say that Caleb Williams failed. Whether or not that you want to blame the offensive line, but there was so many occasions where there was an easy dump off pass where he hesitated, the blitz got home, he was on his ass. He was sacked 7 times. Like, it is absolutely insane. Um, really want to see more from the Chicago Bears offense specifically. Holding the Houston Texans offense to 19 points is very impressive. Shout out to the Bears defense. They're doing their thing out there. And the Houston Texans doing enough, right? Last week, it was the run game show with Joe Mixon. This week, it was Nico Collins showing up. This team can beat you so many different ways, even when CJ Stroud wasn't out there lighting up the entire situation. Shout out to the Texans defense. Like I said, dude, 7 overall sacks. Hunter had 1.5. You had Azeez Al-Shaair 1. You have Henry Tutu got 1 at what? Derek Barnett, Mario Edwards Jr. This whole team was absolutely eating all over the place. Watch out for the Texans, but I'll be completely honest with you. I haven't seen a lot to make them Super Bowl contenders just yet. Let's see how they play for the remainder of the season. Well, folks, that's going to have to do it for another edition of NFL Reactions. We just ended up going through week 2. Do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications. I put out NFL content each and every single day, and we have a goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. I know that we can do it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.